Hey yo, welcome back to Real Talk. I'm your host, again, AKIN SKY. Hey yo, check this out. I gotta answer the question, right? Do I look African or do I look Asian? Trick question. I ain't African. People say, no. He has to be African. He's dark skinned. Give a fuck. No, I'm not African. Nor am I American either. Now people sit back and say, don't say I'm not African American. Why? He's black. He can't say he's not African American. So, first and foremost, not every person is dark complected is freaking African. As a matter of fact, for the record, that doesn't make them African American either. Why? Simple as this. In this land of America, as people sit back and say it, this is not the real name of America in the first place. The real name of America was Azroth. People would know this if you read the Apocrypha in the Holy Bible. If you take a 1611 Bible and so forth and look at the Apocrypha, that's the part of the Bible that was taken out of the Bible. The 1611, the Apocrypha, it calls this land Azaroth. I bet. So that's Azaroth. That's a Hebrew word to mean the hidden land. I bet. So Azaroth would be what considered was Canada, North America, Mashima or Mexico, Cuba, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Hawaii, all the Pacific Islands, right? All of that, Cuba, all of that would be considered as Azaroth, right? That's before Columbus. But after Columbus and so forth, they switched the name and we started speaking English, instead of saying Turtle Island. So we're talking about way before the Germans even landed in this land. It's Azaroth. Now, as far as Africa, before the first government named it Africa after Africanus, a French man, it was known as Azaroth. It was known as Akibalon, right? Not a problem. So Akibalon would have came from another name, Ethiopia, which the Bible calls that whole landmass Ethiopia. Now, I know people are going to simply say, what about the Mesmerims? The Mesmerims, talking about the Cushites. The Cushites lived in another landmass of Iraq as well. How you figure that? Simple as this. I ever heard of Gal Tepe in Mesopotamia? Gal Tepe is ancient Turkey, right? That's Western Asia. In fact, Mesopotamia, which is also Iraq, is actually West Asia as well. The Middle East, the desert. Now, interesting part about it is, ever heard of the Fertile Crescent? No, because most people don't understand teachers from that landmass anyway. When they look at the Fertile Crescent, that is the combination of Asia and what people think is a Akibalon, which is still technically part of Asia, which means Mesmerims or Northern Africa, as people call it in modern speech, is still technically part of Asia. So the oldest part of Africa, what people think about is Mesmerim, it's still technically part of Asia, Iraq. The Fertile Crescent and Mesmerim, Northern Africa, is still technically part of Asia. Aight? Because the Kishites and the Cushites and the Hebrew and the ancient Adamitic lived it in freaking Asia. Now, people simply say, but I heard the core form is the oldest writings. Hey, yo, the instant part about it is, do you even know what core form is? And where was no matter of fact, better that, where was it located when it was first written? Oh, we're talking about history at this point. The oldest writings? Okay. The oldest writings were found in Iraq. Wowzers. Is there history before the first writing system is invented in Iraq? Sure there is. This would be considered as anthropology or archaeology. Anthropology is a study of ancient civilization. Archaeology is a study of ancient artifacts. This is what's known as pre-recorded history, right? So before it was the saying chloroform was invented in Iraq, which is the same language is written in Dagon Gal Tepe and Mesopotamia and the ziggurats, which predate the pyramids by thousands of years. All of this Asiatic writings proving that theory sound, which every anthropologist and archaeologist with somebody that studies ancient artifacts and ancient civilizations knows as a fact. So before the first writing system, this was known. How do we know that? Simple as this. Ever heard of pottery? Yeah, pottery is when people sit back and they study how to make vases and stuff like that, right? And artwork and stuff, right? Okay, not a problem. Ever heard of it? Years, months, centuries, decades, weeks, 24 hours, 365 days a year. The dating system, that was invented in Iraq. What about the first bricks, the first cities, the first structures, designing things, talking about construction, that was invented in Iraq. What about horticulture, which is the study of farming, as far as plants and vegetables? That was invented in Iraq. What about farming as far as animals? Talking about, well, that was horticulture. You're talking about farming at this point. Talking about agriculture. That was invented in Iraq. What about the theory of studying the planets? You mean everything outside the Earth? Talking about astrology? That was invented in Iraq. What about poetry? You mean writing stuff down with eloquent philosophies and stuff? We know if the first writing system was invented in Iraq, then we know poetry was invented in Iraq as well. But what about music? Same thing, Iraq. Wait a minute. What about math? Because this adding and subtraction, division, and multiplication that was first invented in Iraq. Now, everything possible that people would need to invent any fucking thing was invented in the first civilization. But yet the first civilization is Mesopotamia, which is the name of ancient Iraq, aka also the Garden of Eden. But wait a minute, Adam and Eve were the first people on the planet. Hold up. What's the name of the planet? And watch they gonna say, it's Earth. That's English. There's languages that predate English. First languages were Hebrew, Aramaic, then it was Latin, Italian, or the Grecian languages, or Spanish. Before there was Britain or German language, which is the roots of English. And we never even talked about yet the invention of the Russian language. So that means the Bible, when the Quran was written by people that spoke multiple different languages way before the daggone Russian language was even invented, right? So this means the Bible and the Quran predate even white people's existence, right? So this means just the first people on the planet would have been black and brown, right? All right, so because at one point the whole entire planet was just melanated people, right? How do I know that shit? You can't prove. I can't prove that. Okay, how about this? The ziggurats, right, which was in Iraq, right? Yeah, I bet. So the ziggurats found where? In Mishima, ancient America. But wait a minute, the Anunnaki, right, and the Gijiji landed in Mesopotamia and Iraq. Well, we know about the Anunnaki statues, yet the Hopi, you just say talk about the Anunnaki. Well, in the Hopi language, they talk about the ant people, right? But in the Hebrew language, we're talking about ancient angels. They would have landed in Iraq, or the Watchers. They landed in Iraq. But yet, the Anunnaki in Iraq were the same people, or the same entities that landed in Iraq. They landed where else? If there's Anunnaki statues in Iraq, the only other place where there's Anunnaki statues that is just as old is South America or the south side of Africa, essentially Ecuador. Well, wouldn't that mean that blacks and Hispanics were the oldest people on the planet? Of course that would mean that, right? Especially when we start thinking about God made Adam God, well, the Father and the Son made Adam in the image of the Father and the Son. So if God and the Son of God, some of Yahuwah and Yahweh, I simply say God and Jesus if you bring it back to English, right? All right, so the Father and the Son made Adam in the image, right? So if Adam, the Bible talks about Adam was born from the dust of the ground. The phrase dust of the ground in Hebrew is Adamah. The word Adamah was the name of the planet. Interesting part about it is the only place where it's Adamah is in Euphrates and Tigris River. But that's the same location the Bible says is the Garden of Eden, right? Which is technically still Iraq, right? Or Mesopotamia, right? But the interesting part about it is the word Adamah itself comes from the name Adam, which means man, which means the first man on this planet, Adam, is the reason why the name of this planet is Adamah. That's probably the reason why they say it's a man's world, right? Because God gave Adam dominion of this planet, right? Which is the inheritance of all us melanated people who was in slavery, right? That's what the Bible says, the meek shall inherit the earth, or the meek shall inherit Adamah. I wonder why the slave owners from Germany neglected to teach us that. Think about that. Real talk. Anyway, so that means so for technically we just dark Asians, right? But then again, you go figure so forth. There's a phrase known as I'm gonna say the word Asia, right? Now watch this. There's Afro-Euro-Asia. What is Afro-Euro-Asia? That's Africa or Kebalon or Ethiopia or the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia in the Middle East, Europe, which is all of this still Asia, right? But then before that, there was Eurasia, right? So that's when the whole planet was Adama or Pangea, Gaia or Gila, the Grecians say, Eurasia, right? So before that, there was just Asia, right? That's when it was just known as Adama, right? So all this predates the intervention of Europeans at this point, right? Now we go back to the same desert stands where Adam and Eve was living, right? Where all life started in Asia, right? So when they mean that every demographic and nationality is technically Asian, so when they say there's only one race of people, the human race, yeah, well, think about the human race started from the ancient hominids. The ancient hominids, wait a minute, hominids were ancient humans. Hominids were found where? Well, the remains of ancient hominids or ancient humans were found in Iraq. That means the oldest living ancestry of human beings were found in Iraq. Facts. So we just dark-skinned Asians. Anyway, run it. Anyway, hope y'all enjoyed it. I'm your host, again, A.K. again, S.K.Y. Real talk. Free the mind, free the people, y'all. Hi. Shalom.